Hello and welcome to another video. And Space Engineers 2 has released into early access. We are going to take a look at Vertical Slice 1. What is available in this early access? What new mechanics have they added? And whether or not you should be looking to pick this up now or wait for a future update. So, first off, we're going to go through all of the different blocks that are available in this vertical slice. And as always, I have laid out every single block in a nice platform so we can go through them one by one. So let's jump back into our character here and jump on down with our brand new animations for our character. They look way better compared to Space Engineers 1. As we're heading along here, we have the different armor blocks. And to start this off, we need to talk about the unified grid system. No longer is it small grid and large grid, it is simply grid. As you can see, even with this large grid block, which I'm still going to refer to them as their terms, large grid and small grid, just to represent the 2.5 meter and 0.5 meter sizes, because that is just what I'm used to. I might get used to it in the future. But you can see that I can attach this small grid block anywhere I want on this large grid block. I can also hold down control and access something called precision. And that allows me to go into the 25 centimeter grid system and place this wherever I want. I can just attach it there. And no longer is that occupying the whole block space. It is now only occupying this individual space. So I can place stuff right beside it and I can just build however I want. That is the main new feature in Space Engineers 2, is having this new grid system. But we can see here we have a fair amount of shapes. We have them in both large grid, 2.5 meters, small grid, 0.5 meters, and detailing, which I'm going to call microgrid, but I've also seen people calling them greeble grid. But they are our smallest block, and they are these detailing cubes. Now for detailing cubes, we only have 4 shapes so far. We only have the full block, the 45-degree angle, the 45-degree corner, and the 45-degree inverted corner. That's the same as well for the large block and small block variants of those. But then going forward with just the large block and small block versions, we have the half slope, half slab, the half corner slope, as well as the 1x4 slopes, as well as these ones here. So overall, there is actually less armor shapes than previously in Space Engineers 1. There is several of the transition slopes, as well as all of the curved surfaces that are not in Space Engineers 2 yet. So not every single armor shape will be available, but there is enough here that you can build some good looking craft. Continuing on from there, we have our various functional and other structural blocks. Now, this is just going to be a smattering. I just placed it down in order as I went down the G menu. I just went down here and picked things out in that order. We have some buttons. We have a button panel as well as a singular button, which you can place anywhere now, as it is this new 25 centimeter grid. As of right now, the buttons don't do anything. They are merely cosmetic, but of course in the future they will be able to access and activate various components and stuff on your grid. We have our antenna, both the large version as well as a little bit of small version, which I'm thinking this is going to be an example of something that I'm going to really enjoy with Space Engineers 2 when it comes to this new unified grid system. No longer are you going to be forced on a large grid to take a large antenna. There may be some gameplay mechanic, maybe that large antenna simply has a longer range, but if I have a ship and I don't really need a large antenna, but I need an antenna, I'm not forced to take the large grid version of it. If I can just take the little one. I think that's awesome. The same thing with stuff like the landing gear. I mean, realistically, you could make a giant ship and then just put a little bitty landing gear on it. And just land on that. You can make a little bed of like 100 little landing gear and use them like laying on a bed of nails sort of thing. Just tiny little feet everywhere. For gyros, we have our old size of small grid and large grid, although with Space Engineers 2, is very similar to the Prototech block, where there is connection points on all 6 sides of this block, which means that no longer will you have those times where the gyro breaks off from its single connection point and starts bouncing around inside your ship. You can actually use them structurally, which makes me happy. As well, it's beautifully animated. Look at it rotate. Oh, gorgeous. As well as a giant gyro, which even just one of these on a large ship is enough to make it whip around so fast. So I am very excited about that. As well, we've got a gravity generator here and different size cargo containers. We have the typical 3x3x3 large grid large cargo container, as well as a 1x1x1 large grid small cargo container, and this is about equivalent to an old small grid medium cargo container. You can see that the cargo port is the full size, as well as small connections on the opposite sides. So you can theoretically use this. So if I whip out, say, the cargo, I can align that right in there, and these would connect, and these would work together. So this is actually quite nice. Able to just very easily just attach a little bit of cargo. And this could just be in line in a conveyor, which, unfortunately, conveyors and such are not in this version of the build yet. But very easily are we going to be able to put in just a tiny bit of cargo space, which I think is wonderful. Continuing on, lights. Interior light, corner, spotlight, all of small grid size, as well as a large grid spotlight shining its way out there. And if I'm not mistaken, no longer are these lines here part of the light. So one of my greatest annoyances was the fact that the spotlight had those lines in it on the light, and so you would be really hard to fully illuminate something. But now that's not the case. It's just going to be a light source, which is awesome. We have a doorway, unfortunately not functional yet. Keyword yet. We can power it on and off, but we can't open and close it. So hopefully sometime in the future. Some interior pillars for your building greebless. These are being used a lot in these designs that are part of the base scenario here in Space Engineers 2. You can see they have been put together to act like pipelines. We've got these two here. Maybe that's structural. Maybe that's some sort of like oil or gas pipeline or what going into the different parts of the base. And I think even if we go inside here, there's some of them in the ceiling crisscrossing back and forth. So they are using that as a lot of interesting greeble. Both the interior pillars, these columns here, as well as these pillars here for doing different structural and greebling aspects. So like these pillars right here are the same thing. And let's get back to it. Next up, we've got some solar panels. Now, these are similar to the colorable solar panels from Space Engineers 1 because they do have a half block of thickness to them. Now, in this alpha, we are in creative mode only. There is no need for power yet, and these do not produce any power. So as it stands, these are just merely decorative. But of course, in the future, they will be part of the survival where you need to align them to the sun so that they power up your grids and give you all the juice that you need. As well as a small version of that, which is 2x1 in terms of like large grid block size, with only a small grid of thickness to them. We also have some reactors, moving on with the more power, just a regular small reactor, and a large reactor. Again, no power required in this alpha, and you don't need to build those on your grids. 2 control seats, just a regular control seat, as well as a cockpit. A single drill so far, as they don't have any other sizes of this. So I would want them, I feel, to add in additional sizes. I feel that having one that's this size is good. This would be good for your small grid scaled ships. But I think having a like 2x2 by like say 4 or 5 long, something like that, or even a 3x3 drill might actually be kind of fun to have a nice bulked up drill that I can put onto a nice big large grid design. Ooh, over here we got thrusters. Now we're in space only so far, so it's only ion thrusters, and we've got 4 sizes of them. What would be equivalent to, say, small grid small thruster, a small grid large thruster, the large grid small thruster, and a large grid large thruster, if you're, again, using Space Engineers 1 terminology. All of these can be placed on the grid interchangeably, which I think is amazing. Just like how I was saying, like you could take like the small antenna if you just need a small antenna, like you can use these with, say, this large one here as your main thruster, and then you can go and you could add in a whole bunch of extra of these and make some cool looking thruster bays, some thruster clusters if you wish, which I do believe they have done something along those lines over here. They've got the large thruster as well as what is the large grid small thrusters here, but you could easily like sneak in wherever you need just that extra little bit of thrust by doing the small grid sized ones on whatever size of ship you wanted. Moving forward, we have refinery, assembler, and med bay. These are all just sort of production, so some survival aspects. These are all non-functional so far, but very interestingly, which we want to see how these work in the future, some of them have these little ports on them. So you've got this little port, and it's got a little lightning bolt plus, and this one's got the little speedometer, and it's maxed out. Are those going to be how we upgrade these things with modules in the future? Now, one of the things that I got to visit Keen Software House in Prague. They invited me out there, and it was an amazing trip. One of the things they gave me to show to the community was the battery work in progress teaser. And that teaser has the battery with a whole bunch of these lightning bolt connectors on it, and it looks like the power cells are like hot swappable like batteries in and out of the block. So the block itself isn't the battery, it's the power cells you're swapping in and out, which sounds amazing. So that leads me to believe that these little ports here are going to be modules that we will craft and then, say, grab on our character like a tool or something, and we'll come over to it and we'll insert it into the slot and upgrade that slot and make the particular assembler or refinery or whatever it is perform better. So I think that's going to be an interesting system. That's kind of what I predict it to be, but we'll have to see in the future. But as it stands in this alpha, these are non-functional. They are merely aesthetic. Of course, in the future, they will be a critical component of survival playthroughs. Continuing on, some more structural stuff. Some catwalks and different railings. Again, because of the unified grid system, like, I can't express how much this is going to change building. Because of the unified grid system, in the past, you would think, okay, this corner railing would occupy this entire, like, large grid block space, right? But now, that doesn't matter. I want to put a light there. Okay, let's put a light there. And I'm also going to go a little bit of structural here. I'm going to get a little pillar. And I can just, in the corner here, I can just put up a pillar. And then I can put a light on that pillar. And it's within this same block space. Like, that is going to be the biggest change, in my opinion, of how you're going to build in this game. You're going to be able to do all sorts of stuff where in the past you had to use all these inset blocks and such. I had to use, like, this block space with an inset light, this block space with an inset library or something, or the aquarium, something aesthetic. But now you can go and you can just make those things yourselves, and it can even be within the same block space, which, it's gonna be so good. A ramp, some stairs, just your simple structural stuff. We have some interior walls. So we got some nice thin, one small block, actually no, one detailing block, one microgrid thick, 0.25 centimeters, and just gives you a nice bit of wall, interior corner, and then a flat. And as well, every single possible window you could need in the interior corners. The flats, the angles with sides to them, the different corners, every single possible window, including the 1x2 slants and all their corners and sides and such as well. So that is every single block that is in the current alpha. Now, this is very small in comparison to what is currently available in Space Engineers 1. There is a whole bunch of, say, like curved armor, curved windows, just weapons in general don't exist. There's no alternate thrusters like the atmospherics or hydrogens. There's no movement blocks like your pistons, your rotors, your hinges, your wheels. Not much here yet. There's enough of a toolbox that you can start to experiment, and you can fly a few ships around and such. But you're going to have to wait if you want to truly start rebuilding your grids in Space Engineers 2. There is the Space Engineers, what is it called? It's the Grid Exporter mod. For the original game, you load up that mod into your world, and you can export your blueprints into the Space Engineers 2 game file, like the grid system. And any blocks that it doesn't recognize, it'll just replace with blocks of armor. this is a decent way to get, say, your favorite hull shape that you've made over a long time in Space Engineers 1, get that into Space Engineers 2 so you can start to experiment. However, I think it's kind of premature, as you're just going to end up with giant blocks of armor, especially, say, like where a turret was, as that occupies a 3x3x3 large grid space. It just turns into these, like, almost look like little tumors of armor on the outside of your ship. Being like, oh, right, that's where a Gatling turret was. And any conveyor lines are all just armor as well. And so I think you need to wait a little bit before you start bringing over your grids until they got some more blocks for you to use. But anyway, that's all the blocks. We talked about the unified grid system. I want to talk about undo and redo because this is really cool. This is going to make building a lot easier. If I place out blocks like this, I can then go and hit Control Z and it will undo. Control Y and it will redo. And you can go back a total of 20 times. So you can have all of these build states stuck on your bar and just unwind, like rewind, and go back forward as you be like, does it look good like this or like that? And as you can see, if I drag out, that is considered one build. If I rewind from this point, I undo, it's not going to go each individual block in this line. It's going to do the whole line at once because that was one action that we took. So we can go back and again go back forward. Another great change they've added in Space Engineers 2 is the paint gun. Now, I personally have not used this mod for Space Engineers 1 very much. So I'm not sure how well this represents the mod in its Space Engineers 2 form. And what we can do is we can press R, open up this quick menu, we can look at different skins, we can get our paint mode, whether or not we want it to be a different size or a single block. We can also go into our selected color and choose from a palette of primary colors here. So say I wanted to paint things green. We can come over here and we look at the block. We can see our little selector that is on the block. We hit left click and it has painted it green. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And we can go through and paint our stuff here. We can also just hold down and just pan over the blocks. And if we hold down and look at a particular block for a duration, we see a timer pop up. That means that if we want, we can paint the entire grid that color by just holding down the timer. So if I go here to green and I hold it down, 1 and 0, boom, the entire grid is now green. We can also pick a color. So say I wanted to have this particular blue, right click, I now have that blue and I can paint with that blue. Or I can replace a specific color. So say I liked how this color pattern works with the white striping and the grays, and this works for me, but I don't like the blue. I want to change it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and we're going to go into our menu. We're going to select, say, red. And I'm going to look at the blue and I'm going to middle mouse click. And it's going to replace just the blue. Oh my god, that is going to be so good. Because there's been so many times where I have made a cool design and then gone, okay, I have it all decked out and I've got it all set up to be like blue team. And now I need to go through and manually repaint it to be red team. And this is just one step. All I have to do is just go and say, let's see. How about black? Yeah, boom, black team. Like right there. Easy peasy. Yellow, sure. Boom. It's done. I am super excited about that. Allow you to do color combinations really quickly and experiment with them without having to download a mod for it. Ah, so good. But next, we can grab the ship here and talk about the differences in speed, which I do think we need just a little bit more thrust. And to show off the unified grid system, we could theoretically shove one of these bad boys onto this tiny ship, and it would work. So why don't we do that? Can I bring this out a little bit? Very good. And then slap one of these bad boys there. Yeah, I think we've over-engined this ship completely. Ah, boom! Oh my god, we're drift. It's like Space Engineers Tokyo Drift. Oh my god. We're flying around like crazy. But it just shows you what you can do with the new unified grid system. We're doing some crazy stuff. I can imagine myself making a small ship that is based on one giant ass thruster in the butt, and just making the ship fit on top of that thruster, and it'll be glorious. But you can see that we can get going pretty damn fast, and that is because we have a new maximum speed, with it being 300 meters a second, which is something you can actually change. If I go into the settings here, I can go meters a second, kilometers per hour, or silly freedom units. I am Canadian. I gotta be a little funny here. With miles per hour as well. In kilometers per hour, it's actually like 1,116, which is kind of fun. So you can be like, I'm going 1,000 kilometers an hour, which is true. Back to meters a second. We can get up to 300 meters a second with our ship here. And with this large thruster, we get there pretty quick. But thankfully, we have enough brakes now. However, we do have the ability here that if we are going 20 meters a second or less, if we crash into something, guaranteed no damage. And that is for both grids and your character. So if my character was coasting along here and I hit something at greater than 20, I'm going to take damage. However, you may notice there, my jetpack won't go faster than 20, no matter how hard I push it. That is because there is a safety mechanism built into your jetpack where normal motion won't let you go faster than 20 meters a second. So we are our safe jetpack speed here. But then what you can do is hold down the shift key and you can go into turbo mode and you can get up to 300 meters a second with your jetpack. You can zip around the world. And that allows you to move very quickly. So, with all these new features, there are a few other things. There's, of course, graphical improvements. This game is looking amazing, and I am even running this on low, just so I make sure that I have a nice smooth recording, and I'm doing some other stuff in the background as I make this recording. We can up this into, like, extreme if we want to show off some of the stuff. But, like, this game, even on low, is looking amazing. And also performing very well. I'm getting solid FPS, even when I'm running around in these kind of silly ships that can get up to 300 meters a second in just a matter of moments. Whoop, boom. And I did want to do that, actually, because I wanted to show off the new destruction effects. when a block is damaged or destroyed, which we do have our... Where is it here? Gatling cannon. No, it is the destruction tool. Debug tool. Debug gun. We can shoot these things and we can watch them explode. Stuff will shoot out these little deformations. Blocks will explode into small bits. We'll have fracturing, so you can see inside the block as it is destroyed. That little bit of fracturing will then slowly despawn. And you've got these wonderful damage effects, which I think is going to make the damage on your ships look even better than it has ever in Space Engineers 1. But yeah, that, I think, minus a few other small features, is essentially everything that is in Space Engineers 2 Alpha. Now, this is a early access vertical slice. There, like, to be brutally honest, there's not much game here. This is, how I've been describing it, really good bones, but no meat. Like, I personally, after making this video and maybe doing a little bit more experimentation, am not really going to do much more with this game. I need to wait for survival so that I can actually do some content. I'm a survival player. I'm a survival YouTuber. That is what I do. I, personally, do not have the patience to do finicky little designs like this in order to greeble my base. I hope they add some pre-greebled blocks in the future. If not, I am going to wait for the master builders to create blueprints of pre-greebled blocks for me to just pull onto my hotbar, which I should talk about here. There is one more feature I've forgotten, and I just remembered it. Partial copy and blueprinting and stuff like that. So what you could do, say I like this little truss that they've made here with interior blocks and detailing cubes. I can look at it and I can say go Control and P, and that partial copy, and then we can start our copy somewhere. So let's start our copy on, yeah, this thing. Then I can hold Control and my different WASD, Q, and E keys are going to tell which side I'm going to expand, and then my mouse wheel allows me to go in and out to either lengthen or retract the selection. So you can see here that I've made this selection be this part of the truss. Then I can hit left mouse button to confirm, and I can pull that partial copy out. And now, bam, I have that as a separate thing. From here, what I can do is I can Control and B to create a blueprint, aim at this particular grid, click, and it'll create a blueprint of that little bit. So just call it platform, sure, whatever, save. Now I can press G, bring up my menu, I can go to my blueprints, and I can grab this and drag it onto my bar, and now I have that as a full-fledged block that I can place in the world. So I am thoroughly expecting some point in the future the master builders will create a series of Greeble, and they'll put them out there as yeah, hallway 1 Greeble, with pipes and railways and like handrails and all that kind of stuff all set up, and then you'll just be able to subscribe to their blueprints and then drag them onto your bar and just build with them. So now what I can do is I can go here and I can just put this on the end here, if I can align things correctly. That is. And I might just need to place it in the world for a second and I deleted the whole base. Okay, that's fine. We don't need the base anymore. We're done with it. Come on, I want to cut from there. No, I cut the whole ship. Ah, God damn it. You little grid. Let me cut you. No, that's not working for me right now. Copy. You little thing. You're just... It's just being troublesome. Do I need a block here? No. I don't know what this thing is doing. But anyway, you can make these partial grids and then snap them together. Some people made the tutorial videos before the game came out, as Software asked us to make some of those. So, like, for example, like Androman showed off how you can create hallways and attach them together through modulars using this system here. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the alpha. I don't think I've missed anything huge. Personally, I am going to not be doing much Space Engineers 2 content until we get survival. And once we do, the series will start. I'll start doing Space Engineers 2, like, Let's Play survival series. I'll start doing challenge runs and just fully committing to Space Engineers 2. Until then, Space Engineers 1 will be the mainstay of my channel, and I think where most people are going to continue playing for now. Personally, in terms of a critique here, I think that releasing this early was a little bit of a mistake. Like, you only get one release, and it's a tech demo. I get it that they want to have feedback, and they are being very straightforward with hey, if you don't like it, don't buy it yet. Which is a very nice attitude to hear. And it's good that they're being like, yeah, if you don't find any value to it yet, just wait until you feel like it's worth your money. That's amazing. That's a good thing to say. But personally, I don't know why it wasn't delayed about 6 months. Or whatever it would take to get basic survival in. Even if it was no planets yet. Like, I don't need planets. I can live off of asteroids. But if it was just survival, if I could just use this new system and be in space only, that would be okay with me. I don't need planets yet. But I need something to do. And once you have played with Lego long enough, the Lego gets boring because there's no game there. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think this is great. It's a good bones, no meat. I need to wait for the meat. I hunger for the meat. That sounds weird when I put it that way. But that is my first impressions for Space Engineers 2. Hope you guys found it interesting or informative. And thanks for watching. And good hunting out there, fellow Space Engineers.